All right, looks like it's 10:15. Welcome everybody to our second round of breakout sessions today. I'm Deanna Frazier, and you're here for Talking Teen. Today we're going to hear a presentation from brand consultant Jamie Witt, creative leaders Emily Wheelock and Amber Page, and photographer James Brozier. So throughout the chat today, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on that. We can get to questions as we're able with time at the end. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to them to take us through our presentation today. So take it away.
Great, thank you, Deanna. And everybody can see the presentation and hear me good, right?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, awesome. I'm Jamie. I joined IU Studios as a content specialist in 2019. Currently in a brand consultant role with IU Studios. I earned my journalism degree at IU, and I've held various marketing and communications roles within the IU universe.
Hey everyone, I'm James and I'm a photographer here at IU. In case you're wondering, that is me on the right in this photo. I've been at IU in my current role since 2014. Before that, I worked as a photojournalist at newspapers in Wyoming and South Bend, Indiana, but IU is home for me because I'm a 2010 graduate of the IU School of Journalism.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Wheelock. I'm a designer and creative leader for IU Studios. I've been at IU about 5 years now, and I'm also a Heron School of Art and Design grad at IUPUI. Fun fact about myself, I really love looking for inspiration, and I could scroll through tons of different sites looking for inspiration to bring back to my work and just for anything really. I could do that for hours, so fun fact about myself.
Hi everybody, I'm Amber. I've been with IU Studios since 2012. I am a creative leader and a content specialist on the regional brand team at the moment. Fun fact about me, I have been a storyteller forever and in fact have a couple romance novels published.
All right, thanks team, and thanks everyone for joining us this morning. So in this session, we're going to cover some insights about Gen Z, some strategies and tactics to engage with them, and we'll share some of our work in action. We hope you'll walk away with some new ideas and inspiration to help you continue to connect with prospective and current students. So let's jump right in. What do we know about Gen Z? This group defies categorization. They are pragmatic with money, careers, and safety being top of mind. They care deeply about helping others, doing good, and being part of something bigger than themselves. They embrace technology, but still value human interaction in a big way. And the research that Carolyn shared Tuesday in her Gen Z session, she talked about face-to-face communication is their preference, although they don't feel 100% confident in that method of communication because they have, been ingrained in technology and using it to communicate with others. Gen Z is skeptical. Their trust is really hard earned, and transparency is essential to connecting with them. So when it comes to what they want from brands, they differ greatly from other generations. 88% of young consumers think that brands are trying too hard to be cool, and they're quick to dismiss brands that don't check their boxes. Gen Z doesn't care about your logo. They do care about expression, opportunity, inclusion, and they do want to be a part of something cool, but it has to be genuine. If they adopt a brand, what does it say about them as a person? That's a really top of mind question for Gen Z. So really easy audience for us marketers, right? But seriously, why is it important to really understand Gen Z and be super intentional in our approach to connecting with them? First, it's differentiation. How do we stand out in the marketplace? To find the differentiated value points for IU's campuses, we do competitor audits specific to messaging and visual representation. And it's really to learn really what they're saying and how they're saying it in the market. For IU Bloomington, we took the top themes we were hearing and seeing and map them out on this matrix to find our competitors are really institutionally focused, highly aspirational in what they're saying. We uncovered this white space where our primary audience is really lacking messaging that speaks to them and what they want from their college experience. So this white space is our opportunity. Next, connection. It's the foundation for developing that love for IU for life. And for Gen Z, gaining trust and developing loyalty is as much about their voice being heard as it is our messaging to them. And third, simple awareness. We must continue to build our brand and improve our reputation so that we continue to fill that pipeline of future Hoosiers. So now we want to do a quick poll, and we're just going to do this in the chat. So if you can pop your answers into chat, I want you to think about who makes the marketing decisions in your unit. What's their age, or for many, your age. So please take a second to respond. So seeing a lot of 40s, 50s, some 30s. Do see a 19, 50s and 60s, 30 plus. Too old. All right. I think this is a good sample. And, spoiler, what we're marketing is not for you, for us. A typical marketing decision maker in the US is 42 years old, much older than the teens we're marketing to. I know I fall into, I'm 39, so right there. And in higher ed, we have those additional stakeholders such as deans and faculty who typically fall within that higher age demographic, right, that may be influential in our messaging. So how do we talk teen? The following tips came from my own journey in developing messaging for IU Bloomington's first DVP campaign. Talk their talk, but don't be cringy. Just because you think something is funny doesn't mean that Gen Z will. Don't talk down to them. Yes, they grew up immersed in technology and texting, but they've also learned how to write and how to speak. Gen Z believes their communication is a happy medium between shortcuts and grammatically complex, so it's really critical that we strike a balance with them too. When in doubt, ask a Gen Zer for their 2 cents. We ask our social student media ambassadors quite frequently to provide feedback on messaging and tone, if we have any inclination that we might be coming across as trying too hard. And I mean, all of us in the IU marketing and communications community, we're all lucky to be literally swimming in a pool of Gen Zers who want their voices heard. So let's ask them. Chat them up, really listen and take note. So a huge part of the IU Bloomington DVP research included current student interviews. We interviewed more than 40 students coming from diverse backgrounds with diverse majors, and their words were highly influential in creating new messaging. I can't tell you how many times we heard the word opportunity, the phrases IU is home, and I just felt like I belonged here. And they were really pivotal to copywriting in the success of our campaign. Check in with informal focus groups. I have a 13-year-old daughter. This is her, this is Parker. And she and her friend network have often been guinea pigs for me for messaging consumption. So when I hear things like, whoa, that's cool, or I haven't seen anything like that before, I know that we're on to something. Gen Z dictionaries, they're a thing. They're updated often. I mean, they have to be, right, because to stay on pace with all of the new slang changing every day. I've scoured many Gen Z dictionaries to see what the cool kids are saying these days. And goals, hashtag goals, was in high frequency use among Gen Z at the time these ads were created. And their engagement with the hashtag was really prevalent across social channels. The bottom left ad featuring the male student performed really well. We reached 57,000 people and had more than 300 landing page views on the single ad on Facebook alone. Now let's talk about authenticity. Authenticity and participation are so central to Gen Z. They want their opinions to be shaped by real people. One of the biggest influencers in the college decision-making process is their peers. We heard that over and over from our student interviews that we did for the DVP research. And Gen Z craves specific and not lofty personal accounts. Ad Age reported that 84% of Gen Z consumers trust a company more if they use actual customers in their marketing. And you'll hear more about visual representation shortly from James, but 79% of this generation will trust a company more if the images its brand uses aren't photoshopped. Gen Z overwhelmingly responds better to user-generated content than traditional media. They find it more trustworthy. Nielsen reported 92% of consumers trust peer recommendations above all forms of advertising. And consider your own choices. I know my own shopping journey on Amazon, which I'm sure, like most of you, spiraled out of control amidst COVID, always starts with looking at buyer reviews and checking for bestseller status. And speaking of COVID, so IU Studios was already promoting user-generated content primarily on social, but the pandemic really pushed us deeper into this space when we were unable to produce video with students being off campus, us being off campus with mask restrictions and social distancing. So we packaged up guidance and really strategic directives to help shape the conversation that we wanted to get out of these like selfie style testimonial student videos. So we titled it My IU Story in 5. We asked students to answer 5 questions from tell us about the moment you knew IU was the one to you're talking to a friend who's considering IU. What's your pitch? Some students used their smartphone, others set up like legit filming situations with fancy cameras, but regardless, turnaround was extremely quick and students were super participatory. So our end product delivered really relatable, authentic storytelling that enabled students to participate in the IU brand. And their stories are unscripted, they're conversational, they're imperfect and lightly edited. So let's take just a minute to look at Jude Gussman's story.
Hey, yo, my name is Jude Gussman. I am a senior studying computer science, mathematics, and astronomy. I knew IU was the one when I began research in the astronomy department. It felt like a home away from home. The coolest things I've done at IU socially is help at Kirkwood Observatory's open house night, where the public can come and see different celestial objects. One of life's great delights is to show someone some beautiful object that they've never seen before in their life. One of the coolest things I've done academically is go to Tucson, Arizona with my observational astronomy class to observe different galaxies with the 1.9 meter telescope. No matter what part of my academic journey I was on, I always got so much support from the faculty and staff. Go IU!
So I love this quote also from Ad Age. The good news is that Gen Z wants to be part of the brand experience. If you can provide them with an authentic experience, they'll participate. If you're successful, they won't just join your journey, they'll bring you along on theirs, becoming brand ambassadors through their own social channels while helping you grow your brand as influencers themselves. So when it comes to Gen Z, get to the point and do it quickly. Gen Z has an attention span of about 8 seconds, meaning every single second counts. Just because you can use all the characters a platform allows doesn't mean that you necessarily should. So I encourage you to really challenge yourself when it comes to character limits. draft social copy based on the 90 character rule or whatever, per channel it is, and then see how you can cut it down to really get to the point and say what matters and grab Gen Z's attention. I love this example, and shout out to the IU Bloomington social team. They posted a simple W to celebrate IU's win over Purdue back in the fall of 2019. And I mean, look at that engagement, 3,600 likes, 730 retweets. And you'll also find W in the Gen Z dictionary. The cool kids are using it to talk about wins or, winning. So embrace choppy, scannable copy. Really stick to the 3 C's of being concise, clear, and conversational. And don't get too hung up on being grammatically correct. For students on the IU Bloomington Gateway, I developed a sort of formula for writing these stories, and it not only created consistency across pages and student stories, but it also made my job easier and made it easier to hand off when that project moved to a different writer. So learn this, highlighting a popular major, do this, featuring experience, find this, which is a nod to the community students find at IU, and be this, which is really focused on the student potential and their outcomes after they leave campus. And if you have a CTA for folks to learn more, great, but we found it's not always necessary. So a lot of users spent time on these sections on page but didn't click through, and perhaps it's because we covered everything that they needed or wanted to know. So that wraps my section. I'm excited to pass the baton to our IU Studios photographer extraordinaire, James Brosher.
Thanks, Jamie. And let's see if I can get my slides going here. Alrighty. I wanted to talk a little bit today about what we've termed the sea of sameness when it comes to higher ed marketing, visuals in particular. I realize a lot of you folks have kind of seen probably an incarnation of this presentation, so we've kind of retooled it to kind of talk a little bit more about Gen Z and kind of what the overall point of it is. All right. So we found that the sea of sameness is quite literally a literal sea of sameness sometimes. Apparently nothing says school pride like taking your flags underwater. These are only a few examples. I have many, many more that I could put on several slides. Still don't know why that's a thing. So normally the sea of sameness that we're talking about looks a lot more like this. Beautiful old buildings, picturesque quads, and those campus aerial shots that really look great when you have mountains like the University of Colorado there in the bottom center. Put yourself in the shoes of a high school junior looking at websites or printed materials and seeing all these photos. Can you tell the difference from one institution to another? And even more importantly, can you tell a difference in that 8 seconds that Jamie mentioned earlier? I know we've all seen photos like this, and if you're like me, you've actually taken quite a few photos like this. I didn't think it'd be fair to pick on all of our competitors here. So 2 of these photos are actually mine, the top left and the bottom right. You'll probably recognize those from IU. This sea doesn't end with campus photos though. Out of context depictions of diversity and social situations are a very, very common theme across higher ed marketing visuals. As our students working in labs, again, to pick on myself, the photo in the bottom right is one of mine. So why do we care about this sea of sameness, and why is it even a thing? It's really important to understand the sea of sameness and why it exists if we are ever to emerge or rise above it when it comes to creating visuals. Simply put, the table stakes, visual table stakes, are things that prospective students expect universities to visually articulate before they will even consider us as a choice. So a university needs to articulate that it's a university, for example. That first slide of all the old buildings and picturesque campus scenics is how the table stakes are being met. I like to use Airbnb as an example for visual table stakes, hence the potato photo here. If you're like me, visuals will play a huge role in influencing whether or not I even consider booking a particular place. For example, this potato, and this is a real place in Idaho for $207 a night, if you're interested. When I'm looking for a place to rent on Airbnb, I always start with the photos. I'm looking for table stakes here. If I don't immediately see photos of things I expect, like a bed, a bathroom, a kitchen, a soaking tub in the middle of a Idaho potato, the place is immediate out for me, and I move on to my next choice. I won't make my pick based solely on the visuals, but they play a very key role in influencing whether I even continue to dive deeper to see more information about that particular place. It's kind of the foot in the door. It's worth noting here that the sea of sameness is not necessarily a bad thing. It's essentially a baseline that we must rise above in order to differentiate ourselves from our competitors and grab that very short attention span of Gen Z prospective students. So how do we do this? As we've mentioned earlier in this presentation, authenticity matters, especially in the visual realm. Gen Z is an incredibly visual generation. They are masters at visual communication, even more so than probably anyone on this call. If you don't believe me, just log on to TikTok. They will see right through inauthentic stock photography, photoshopped photos, and those diverse group photos kind of thrown together that we showed earlier. Be specific, show real people doing real things, and that really resonates, especially in a sea of generic stock images. Present visuals in context. This is especially important when visually articulating diversity. You may aspire to be a diverse and open community, but be very careful not to oversell your diversity. Gen Z members of Generation Z will see right through that. Focus on the story. A strong visual paired with a strong, authentic story really resonates. Make your audience feel like participants rather than just viewers. Use visuals that resonate with the viewers by making them feel like they can place themselves in that scene. It's about tone, talking with someone versus talking at someone. How do we do this visually? Capture authentic scenes, like real students doing real things on a real campus, where the viewer can look at the photo or video and say, hey, I can see myself doing that. Invest the time and effort to capture photos with immersive, expressive moments. And with that, that's the end of my section. I'll hand it over to Emily. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, James. So I'm going to be talking about how to design with Gen Z in mind. And before you design or communicate anything, it's really important, obviously, to understand who your audience is. So quickly to talk about Gen Z, we know that they're digital natives. They have always been in a world with a device in their hand and been able to be in constant contact with each other and information. They've got unlimited access to any kind of information that they're looking for. And that means that they've become very highly independent and self-directed. They will go out and look for information if they want to, because it's just a few clicks away and they know that. That self-direction is also what will immediately allow you to say less and get to your point faster. Because if you can just capture their attention up front, they will go and do the work for you and look for that additional detail and information. And finally, to understand Gen Z, we have to understand that they're very strategic content consumers. So they know how to spot an ad from a mile away, and they're generally suspicious of corporate speak. But they do still have favorite brands, just like the rest of us. Their favorite brands are mostly centered in the tech, food, and entertainment industries. So to take a quick look at a few of those favorite brands, this is what they look like. They're vibrant visuals, they're distinctive, and they're eye-catching. Brands like Google, Amazon, and TikTok are among the favorite brands of Gen Z. And what each of these have in common visually is they're clear and succinct in their messaging and in their visuals. They visualize their products in the simplest and just the simplest form possible. They connect emotion and feeling into their visuals, which then creates a compelling and easy to follow story for Gen Z. Oftentimes, their logos are small or sometimes non-existent, but their visuals are instantly connected to their brand identity. working with instead of against Gen Z's short attention spans, these brands really rely on Gen Z to look for more information after that initial point of contact. But if we compare that with higher ed brands, we can tell that we're quite a few paces behind Gen Z's favorite brands. Higher ed has a real tendency to over-communicate in really small spaces, packing information and quickly losing the interest of Gen Z. The photography oftentimes lacks authentic and relatable emotions, and overall the messages and visuals fall flat when they're put up against some of Gen Z's favorite brands. So if we're to talk about some of the design elements that really appeal to Gen Z, the first and easiest way is to step outside of the higher ed industry and look for inspiration from some of Gen Z's favorite brands. And second to that is to recognize that content and design go hand in hand. So creating authentic and unique messages that are clear and they're organized into digestible bites and not trying to over communicate will really help capture Gen Z's attention. Getting to the point as quickly as possible is really important. And then visually, making the most out of the space that we have to attract Gen Z's attention. We can layer patterns, images, and type, and that can be really effective to get their attention. It doesn't necessarily mean that we need to layer 10 different elements, but giving dimension and adding visual interest can still be highly effective. So if you're trying to figure out how to layer elements successfully, first just try limiting it to one or two, whether that's type, image, or pattern. Just try limiting it to those one or two elements. Usually when we try to add more, it gets a little over complex and harder to work with. So keep it simple and scale back when necessary. Vibrant colors also really appeal to Gen Z with their fluid identities and ever-changing visual appeal. These examples that Spotify has created use color in really interesting ways and combine color in really interesting ways, but they've developed a system for color that still feels like Spotify. And it's important to also remember that color can come from more than just background or type color. It can also be included in photography. So thinking about what people in photographs are wearing, what the lighting looks like, can also be ways to add vibrant colors to your pieces. And then we also have the use of typography, being able to put your message center stage and help you stand out by using typographic emphasis. And that typographic emphasis really comes from matching the emotion of your message with the form of your typography. So a bold message might use a heavyweight, or an inspiring message might use an italic cut. And then finally, the best way to appeal to Gen Z is to use their short attention span to your advantage in the form that you're visually communicating with them. So creating short and consumable content will really work to your advantage. Short videos and image sequences can be really effective to get their attention, and images with text overlays can visually display your message. And those are all just really quick creations that don't need to be overly produced to catch Gen Z's attention. So now we know what brands are already catching Gen Z's attention and how they're doing it, but how do we do that within the IU brand? IU obviously still has a brand identity to maintain. The identity is really who IU is, kind of like a person. It's got a core value, it's got core visuals, but brand guidelines and standards can allow us to meet current and future design trends and styles. So it's like a trendy accessory that you might wear today or not tomorrow. The updated brand ecosystem has created a lot more flexibility within the IU brand that allows us to meet those trends and preferences of Gen Z. So applying those trends to the IU brand, the best and first step is to really look for inspiration. Look at Pinterest, Behance, wherever you go to for inspiration, find it and bring it back. You can even look to Gen Z's favorite brands for that inspiration and to get ideas to get you started. But it's also important while you're looking for that inspiration to keep your message and the goal of your piece in mind. We also now have the ability with typography to use bold type, using our brand typefaces and altering them to kind of fit the trends and styles of Gen Z. So the brand website now has a couple of examples of this. And it's really just starting to scratch the surface of what's possible there. Examples like wave type or outlined type and 3D type are all possible and just the beginning. We also have the option to use expressive typefaces, which can really capture the feelings and emotions of our messages rather than just being ornamental. And our color palette has been updated and expanded, which really is going to allow us to use color in new and interesting ways. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everything needs to be a gradient, although it is an option now. Gradients are a really hot trend right now, but they will eventually go away, just like all trends. So design trends in general are really successful when they're used strategically and sparingly. Overusing any design trend on every single piece is generally going to lessen its specialness and visual impact. So always making sure when you're thinking about using a design trend to make a thoughtful decision about why you're using it, how you're using it, and use a little bit of restraint. And then finally, like James talked about, capturing photography that really moves outside of the sea of sameness, capturing authentic and emotional photos with relatable scenes that our prospective students can really see themselves in. And I will leave you with one more piece of advice, and that is, above all else, strive for good design. We're really speaking to a generation that has had a screen in front of them their entire life, and they consume content like no other generation before them. They will know good design versus bad design. So thank you all for your time. I'm going to hand it over to Amber, who's going to take this conversation a little further with examples of how our regional campuses are putting all of these elements into practice.
Hi, everybody. So yeah, I am going to talk to you about some of our work on the regional team. There we go. Sorry. Okay. So far you've heard a lot about what we know about Gen Z in general and our students in particular. But here's the thing. Gen Z prospective students, even prospective students at IU, is too big of a bucket for the stories we need to tell on the regional campuses. After all, there's like over 1 million of them out there in Indiana alone. And they all want something different. After all, this is, as we've all heard over the last couple of days, the generation of highly independent people that are self-starters. One second as there we go. Whoops. I am having mouse issues, you guys. I apologize. Okay. So the students most likely to be considering a regional campus rather than focusing on IU Bloomington or IUPUI are just a little bit different. Affordability is key. The IU degree is a major plus, and the small campus atmosphere is a huge selling point for many of them. And the bottom line, though, is they need a solid ROI. So how do we convince them that their regional campus is the right place for them? And it's what the topic of this whole summit is about, by telling the right stories in the right way. Take this example from IU Southeast. It was last fall. COVID was in full swing. Campus visits were a no-go, so prospective students weren't getting to talk to our student tour guides. But we still wanted them to hear from current students, in their own words, why they should attend IUS. So we started looking for the right storytellers to feature. We began by sending out a survey over email that asked students why they chose IUS, what they liked about it, and what other students should know about it. After the results came in, and we got probably 30, we picked a few of the best. Not necessarily the most polished, but the students that told it like it was, what they really felt, without worrying about what we wanted them to say. Then we asked them to put together selfie videos in their own home, using their phone or wherever else they felt most comfortable, answering the same questions in their own words. Here's one of them, and hopefully this works. Or, not.
My name is Miranda Miller, and I am a junior majoring in communication. IU Southeast has helped me to grow in so many ways already. I have learned how to become an effective leader, and I know that that will carry into my career. It's a place where you'll be encouraged to jump outside of your comfort zone, and as scary as that may sound, it allows you to grow so much as an individual. Being around those kinds of people makes me want to be better.
So those were featured on our social channels, and I think a few of them may have found homes on the website. Oops. Okay, I'm going to get the hang of this. IU Northwest. This is a much bigger story. We needed to create a campaign from scratch, one that could work for recruitment and enrollment right off the bat, but could eventually focus on brand awareness too. It needed to be able to work in every medium, from the teeny tiniest, smallest digital ad to a billboard. And just like at IU Southeast, we wanted it to be real. We wanted it to be relatable. We didn't want to make up the stories. We wanted the actual students at IU Northwest to show their peers how IUN was helping them become their best selves, as you can see from our headlines here. So again, we started with those surveys. We emailed them out and we waited for the results to come back in. And when we got them, I tell you guys, the variety of stories we got was better than anything I could have made up. And I'm real good at making up stories. So here, featured on this slide, you see a couple of the students. We did a photo shoot after we narrowed down the very best stories and got some more of their stories out of them. Here you've got Faith. She wants to be a doctor. She actually just graduated. She's taking a gap year. She is working in a faculty research lab, and they're studying superbugs, trying to find the next big one before they find us. Super helpful right now. She loves the ceramics studio, and she just lights up when she talks about she wants to own a farm someday. We also have Jawad. He's a liberal arts major and he wants to study law. He is looking to combine his passion for history with international policy. Like lots of IUN students, he works full-time and he has tons of commitments outside of school. So he's very relatable, but he knows his education is going to get him where he wants to go. Those are just a couple of the stories we got. We also have the daughter of a single mom who's working really hard to get a degree in social work. We have a nurse student / foster mom who's making the world a little better every day. We had the son of 2 medical professionals who wants to take what they learn him and really invest in patient care, and in so many more. There are so many stories we can tell. This campaign has legs for days. And this last example is a major initiative that we're working on right now. We're helping currently 3 of our regional campuses bring their enrollment marketings in-house from an outside vendor. And in the process, we're helping to ensure they're telling the right stories the right way. The first push, as you can see here, it focuses on email, although there will be much more. As you might expect, the previous versions, the one that we're improving on, are a lot of higher ed marketing, super text heavy, not many graphics, if at all about all about that us talk, instead of here, this is for you, this is why you belong here. As you can see, we've flipped the script just on that one example on the right. We want it to be about our students. To make sure we got it right, we started before the beginning. We started with a content strategy that mapped out the stories we want to tell. We created journey maps that ensure the messages that we want to share are being shared in the right order with the right people in the right ways. And only then did we start to create content and design that engage readers and hopefully help them see themselves at the regional campus. Here you can see a 10,000-foot view of the entire senior prospect journey at IU East. I made it this way on purpose so you could just kind of get a feel for what we're doing without having to get bogged down in the individual content types. The whole thing is student focused. The content is short, snappy, scannable, has lots of bold graphics and fun colors. It couldn't be more different from the original if we tried. This one has just launched. It's early days and there's so much more to come. But we're excited about the opportunity we have to bring these regional campus stories to life in so many different ways. And we can't wait to help our students become the heroes we know they can be. Thank you. That's all I've got, guys.
Yeah, this wraps us up. We have a few minutes for questions. I did put in the chat, we're going to put together a quick little cheat sheet with some of like the Gen Z dictionary sites and some of the resources that Emily mentioned. I I think we all have kind of our list of go-tos. So we'll get that together and get it out to the group within the next few days.
Awesome. Yeah, and I saw that James also had a resource in response to Keith's question around tips for representation in DEI in photography. So that's a great link to check that out. And we can, in the summit follow-up, attach that too for reference. So I think we're caught up on questions in the chat, but did anyone else have anything they wanted to chat about while we have 5 minutes?
We can put the Airbnb link in there too, in case anyone.
Yes, I was going to say Potato Hotel or otherwise. Michelle's wondering if someone could expand on the suggestion to not get too caught up in being grammatically correct. So in what context? Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. I think looking at like that Evelyn story example, you know, not getting too hung up on full sentences and sentence structure, just delivering, you know, getting to the point with keywords and, you know, keeping in mind kind of that text flow of how Gen Z communicates with their friends and, you know, others on their phones. So, yeah, I mean, yeah. I like that. More like headline writing, not like caption writing.
One thing I might add to is think about how you talk. If you write like you talk, and if you have kids like you talk to your kids, that can help. You know, like that shorter pace, you're not talking. I like to say, if you're using a semicolon, stop and rewrite your sentence. Just period. The end.
All right. Any other questions? Tara, I love that the Potato Hotel also has a Hobbit house and a tree house.
And they're gorgeous. Go look them up.
Awesome. And I'll also just give a quick plug too. I know we talked a little bit, Emily talked a little bit about the visuals and some of the flexibility there. If you missed Tim's session yesterday on the brand updates, I would very much encourage you to go back and watch that recording. A lot of really good tidbits on there and what's new. And a lot of that is also on brand.iu.edu. So that's definitely a must-see session after this week. So. All right. Well, if we're caught up in the chat and there are no other questions, I think we might be able to sign off a couple minutes early. We have a long break now. Just looking at the chat really quick. Yeah, on the grammatical piece, I think essentially what we're trying to boil down is being more conversational than by the book. Correct when we're talking about things. So the headline tip I think was good in terms of getting to the point for that audience. So right, Kim, we're not asking people to start making up their own language in terms of spelling. Cool. All right. All right. Well, thank you guys for presenting today. This was a great session. And everyone else, thank you for attending. And we will see you back here at, I think 1:30 is our next round of sessions today. So we'll see you then.